Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the shop. About 60 episodes ago, which is over a year, I started working on something to connect the camper and subframe to the chassis. Now it's time to finish the spring mounts. Now, if you haven't seen episode 16, I would recommend going back and taking a quick skim through it. It's not a very long video, but it will give you an idea of how I got to where I am now. The next step is to reproduce that 5 times, and there's some slight changes between the first one that I made and a couple of the other ones. Let's take a look. So the first mount is made with a couple of pieces of angle that I've cut from channel, and we've got the springs bolted to each side, and I'll go over the springs in a little bit more detail a little bit later on in the video. On the side of the angle, I've welded some gussets, and then we've just got some threaded rod fitting through the springs through the holes in the channel or angle, and that basically makes the spring mount. Now, there are a couple things that I'm going to add to this one. This was just kind of the initial base build. And then on the other ones, which I've got all the parts cut for, they're slightly different. So these ones here are going to be the rear mounts. They're the stiffest springs, so that part stays the most parallel and fixed to the chassis. And that's based on what I found when I did my chassis twist testing. And if you haven't seen those videos, check them out here. The rear, being the part that moves the least, will stay with the tightest springs. The next mount forward, I've used a combination of springs. And again, I'll get to those springs a little bit later on in the video. But there's only a single bolt going through here. So we've got double here, single here that's not as stiff, and then the rearmost is a single one-sided spring, and that's the softest, sorry, the forwardmost, I got that backwards. This is the front, is the softest to allow for the most, I guess, deviation from the chassis line. Again, if you haven't seen the video where I tested how the chassis twists, check it out here, and then it'll give a little bit better understanding. As you can see, the mid and rear mounts are a single spring assembly, so I've had to drill a hole on center. This is much easier to do on the drill press before I start any of the welding, so I've taken them down in the basement and drilled these all out to a 5/8 inch hole. This is to give some clearance around a 1/2 inch threaded rod. Now, a couple of the things that I'm going to be adding, you can see here I've got some little side wings on an angle. That's to kind of help guide fore and aft this mount plate as they separate and come back together, to keep them in alignment a little bit better. I've also got a big piece of HDPE plastic in there. That's going to be used as a guide block or a wear plate. I do also have, and I'm not sure if I'm going to incorporate these or not, these are some rubber spacers. They're a little bit smaller than I was expecting them to be, but I think they'll probably work. So I may add a couple more of those down the line, but that the idea of that is to stop any banging or smacking noises when they come back together. And on the doubles, so the rearmost, I'm going to add a simple plate, which is just, this is a trailer suspension part. Just going to put that across there so that we can avoid the springs going out of alignment with each other and causing binding. Now, the first step in all of that is a whole bunch of steel welding. So I'm going to drag out my MIG welder and start putting this together. Step 1 was making myself a little mini workbench so I'm not bent over on the floor building all of these. But the real step 1, I'm going to be welding the side gussets onto the pieces of angle. I'm pretty sure this angle is strong enough to not need it, but never hurts to have a little bit more. I'm not that concerned about weight, and it's an easy step to do. What I'm doing is I'm welding these what's called a 50-50 weld, so I'm not going flush with the corner. I'm going half on the material because the angle is thick enough to support that. And then I'm coming up again. So when I do my finished weld, my weld is sitting nicely into a corner, which means that it's easy to keep the material there without it sticking out out of the part. Easy way to do that is using a spacer. So I'll be putting a spacer underneath and then visually lining that up 50-50. Doesn't matter if it's exactly 50-50 or not. I'm just looking for a place for the weld material to go. So I'll put it like that, I'll tack it, move it over to the other side, and then I'll do a full weld there. Now, I don't want to make this a video all about welding, but I will say that welding is probably one of the biggest areas where you can save money if you want to build an expedition vehicle. Being able to weld your own steel to make mounts, make cabinets, to make brackets is huge. And if you up your skill to being able to weld aluminum, there's a lot more you can do. If you're starting out a welder and you want some simple tips, the two biggest things that I can say to help you get good welds: make sure you're comfortable in the position that you're in, and that's why I put this little table up, and make sure you can see the puddle properly. If you can't see what you're doing, you're probably not going to end up with a good weld. If you're not comfortable, you're going to get shaky. You're going to have a hard time holding that position until you get all the way to the end. But if you're comfortable and you can see what you're doing, hear what you're doing, after a while, it just comes naturally. One of the things you may recall from the first bracket that I made was that there's an angled face on the inside of this piece of channel. And that means I had to build up the edge with weld so that the spring would sit flat. Happily, I've discovered in the same scrap pile as these some little wedges that make up the angle. So the next step is going to be welding these in place. Saves me using all the weld material just to build up to the level. But seriously, I think you've seen enough welding for one episode, no? Since I had the welder out to weld the wedges on, I thought I'd also go ahead and weld the guide plates on the side. So these guide plates are on a slight angle so that as the two pieces come together, they can help guide any misalignment back to center. The next step is going to be drilling the holes in the HDPE block, and this block sits in between the two halves. And I had mentioned earlier that I may be using these little rubber washers or bumpers. I think I'm going to bypass these and go straight to a sheet of rubber. Now, obviously, this isn't a sheet of rubber, but it's an eighth of an inch thick, and I can use it to simulate it. I don't have this rubber yet, but it's on order. So that will be how the finished assembly works. And the HDPE block will be secured to the bottom, and the rubber will be in the top. So as these come together, if there's any misalignment, the HDPE block can ride along the edge of the plate and guide these to the correct location. With holes drilled in the block and the holes drilled in the rubber gasket, it's time to pre-assemble. So basically this is just a section of rod. Now this rod is not grade 8 rod. What a rod that I'll be using for final assembly is, but I want to get the correct length here first. Slide this through, get a washer, spring, washer, and an eye-lock nut. So at this, right now there's no spring tension on any of this assembly, just enough tension to hold it together. When this is assembled on the truck, we do want to have a little bit of preload on here so that things aren't slopping around. I can't remember the compression rate on these springs, but I will post a slide in a second here with the information for what these blue springs are, what the red springs are and what the long springs are. The unfortunate part is the last I checked, these are no longer available, but it will give you an idea of what I've started with. These are called ISO-D die springs. You can get them in different diameters. They're a medium strength. They're pretty confusing when you look them up because you can get a blue that's a certain strength or a red that's a certain strength or a blue that's a different length that's a different strength. So don't try to figure it out. Just pick a couple springs. The assembly that I've put together here is not a mathematically or scientifically calculated weight or spring tension or spring rate. It is an assembly that I can easily change out these springs. If I find that these are too hard, I can reduce the springs, I can reduce the travel of the springs. If I find that they're too soft, I can put harder springs in the same place, assuming I can still get this size. Now, doesn't really matter if I have to go up to a larger diameter spring. I do still have room in here. On these ones, it's a little tighter, but on the mid and forward ones, obviously with one spring in the center, it would be pretty easy to go to a much larger diameter spring. Now that we've got this mocked up, I'll put a little bit of tension on here, clamp it onto the chassis, put some holes through the back. Here we go. Please note that these are just the springs that I used and may not in any way be the right springs for your application. The rear springs and the blue springs used for the mid-mount are 1 inch diameter, 5 inches long, and have a spring rate of 162.7 pounds per inch. In my dual setup, this doubles to 325 pounds per inch. Let's relate this setup to batteries. I have 2 springs in parallel, as well as 2 springs in series. The 2 in series give me more travel length, like more voltage, and the 2 in parallel give me more capacity, like amperage. With the 2 in parallel, I up the spring rate to 325 pounds per inch, and with the 2 in series, the travel length goes to 10 inches. Does that analogy help make any sense of it? If it does, let me know in the comments section down below. The mid setup uses 2 different springs in series, so the capacity starts out at 137 pounds per inch, but as the softer spring starts to compress, the harder spring will also start to move. The total length, uncompressed, is 10.5 inches. As always, check the video description for useful information and links. These springs were made by Raymond, and I will put a link in the video description to where I purchased them, but unfortunately at the time of filming, they were showing as no longer available from that vendor. If you're aware of another vendor that sells these springs or springs that may be useful for this, throw them in the comments section down below to help out anybody else who may be looking to build something like this. As we move forward, the springs continue to get softer. The forwardmost spring is the same diameter and duty rating as the rear springs, but it's pretty soft at only 40 pounds per inch. This may seem like very low spring tension, but keep a couple of things in mind. We don't want to prevent the chassis from twisting. When it does twist, we want to prevent the stress from going into the subframe and the box. By mounting the springs on a threaded rod, it allows us to preload the springs. So for example, by compressing this spring by 3 inches, I have a preload of 120 pounds before anything starts to move. But once things do start to move, it's a fairly soft spring rate. Down underneath the truck, back behind the rear suspension. So up here we've got the flat deck. This is the tail end of the frame. What I've done is I've clamped a piece of angle on tight with the back of the rear spring mount so that I can get a consistent space here, and I can very easily take this over to the other side and know I'm in exactly the same spot. I've done the same where I've set a pair of bolts in the bottom set of holes because I'm going to be above that. So starting by lifting this into place, I can take the weight and let it sit on the bolt. I can get the spacing lined up with that. That's where the first clamp is going to go. Sorry, the first mount is going to go. I can slide my C-clamp, get it up into place here. Quick tightening on the back of that. Make sure everything is still straight. Now you notice that I've got my tie plate on the top here. I've left it off the bottom so I can still get a little bit of weirdness going on here, but I had to leave that off in order to get the C-clamp in place. So this is where this is going to go, and you can see that we're taking up the same distance right now as the piece of wood that I have in there as a spacer. Once this is all bolted in place, the wood will disappear and we'll just have an air gap between the 2 halves of the chassis. Really, that's only there because this is the height that I needed to clear everything at the front. And it's nice if these 2 pieces are able to move separately, that they're not normally sitting on each other, because that creates a very large area for moisture to gather and corrosion to start forming. So with this held in place here, I can mark out the 4 holes on the back, drill the holes through this, and then we can mount that to the chassis rail. I would probably think that at this point of the video, you're getting tired of watching me weld and drill holes. So let's just consider holes drilled. These are 1/2-inch holes to match the 1/2-inch fine thread grade 8 hardware. I've also opened up the holes in the chassis from the original metric hole to 1/2-inch. Let's pop this in place and see how our dry fit works. Let's start with 2 bolts here just to take the weight and get things lined up. And I am putting the head of the bolt out and the nut in so we have more clearance to the spring. Those are just kind of holding themselves in by gravity right now. I'll do the same on the back with a washer and a nut. And then we'll pop everything on top just to make sure everything's still lined up. That is now secured in place with the grade 8 bolts. We're going to put the HDPE block and the gasket simulator up there. Up top, the upper half. And then see if we can thread the spring rods up through the assembly. Now at the same time, assembly sequence of washer, spring, washer, and this time we're going to do the top plate. Give myself a little bit more thread up there. All right, top plate. And again, a little bit, well, maybe not. I should have enough there now. Nylock nut on top. And a nylock nut on top. So, again, this has no spring tension on it right now. We can add a little bit here just to keep things snug. When I do the final assembly of this, I'll have a nylock nut threaded down into the nylock at the top, a couple threads past. On the bottom, I'll use a regular nut, but I'll double nut it so I can jam these together so they can't back off. And that should hold the whole assembly together nicely. There we go. That's half mounted. Now, before I can mount the upper half to the subframe, I need to make sure everything is in alignment, and that's going to take a little bit of work. Now, shortly I will be pulling the box off so that I can install the roof, and that'll allow me to get a good alignment on the subframe so that I can bolt the rest of the mounts in place. Don't worry, there's another video coming. If you got any questions about anything that I've done in this video, throw them in the comments section down below and we'll see what we can do to answer them. That's as far as I'm getting in this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.